Andy, my dude, have you heard of the magical website builder known as Squarespace?
Ugh, not another Squarespace ad. I feel like every podcast is sponsored by them.
Hey, don't knock it till you try it. Yes, okay, it is overhyped, but actually it lives up to the hype. Squarespace is like a website fairy godmother. With a click of a button, your site transforms into a beautiful masterpiece.
A website fairy godmother? That sounds interesting. What makes it so magical?
Well, for starters, those slick templates make anyone look like a professional web designer. Pick one, customize the colors and fonts to match your brand, and voila. Plus, the drag and drop fluid engine is so easy, your grandma could build a site on Squarespace.
Well, she did knit me a lovely scarf last Christmas. Maybe website design is next.
Exactly. And when you're ready to sell your Nana's handmade scarves online, Squarespace has built-in e-commerce. Add a store with one click. Get flexible payment options. Then watch those sales roll in. And when she wants to teach others her steezy scarf skills, Squarespace's new courses feature is just the ticket. Nana can set up her curriculum and enrollments and payments in a snap and become the next e-knitting influencer.
Oh, wow, you really sold me with the grandma angle. Sign me up for that free trial.
Just go to thenextreel.com/Squarespace and transform your site into a beautiful Squarespace masterpiece.
Well, thanks, Pete. Even though it's overhyped, Squarespace actually sounds perfect for Nana's site's needs. Appreciate the warning on the ads, though. I'll brace myself next time I listen to a podcast.
Anytime. Let me know if you need any help getting that site up and running. Andy, can you believe we've almost hit 700 episodes of The Next Reel?
I know, it's crazy. And with all the other episodes in our family of podcasts, we are well over 1,200 episodes of movie conversation. It's really pretty amazing that we've gotten to have these in-depth movie chats every week for over a decade now.
And we couldn't have done it without our loyal community of film fans. Their support over the years has meant so much.
For sure. That reminds me, we should give the merch store a shout out. Buying shirts from thenextreel.com/merch is a great way listeners can continue to support the show. Plus, they get to sport our great designs.
Absolutely. I think sometimes folks forget we have a variety of shirts, mugs, phone cases, and more available. In fact, a great place to start is with a shirt sporting the Next Reel's logo.
We also have that classic Fast Times Spicoli Surf School tee, or the weirdly popular Rusty's European Tour shirt.
The one from National Lampoon's European Vacation. Why is that so popular?
Search me, but we have sold a ridiculous number of those. I guess there are a lot of Rustys taking trips to Europe?
We're always adding new designs based on movies we've covered, like our brand new design for a streetcar named Desire, featuring a streetcar named Desire. So if you want to rep your love of TNR and films, head to thenextreel.com/merch.
Every purchase helps us continue to have these weekly in-depth conversations. So visit thenextreel.com/merch today.
And as always, thanks for listening and being a part of the Next Reel community. We've got lots more great movie chats coming your way. I'm Pete Wright.
And I'm Andy Nelson.
Welcome to The Next Reel. When the movie ends,
our conversation begins.
In just a matter of seconds, you're going to hear a classic episode of this show from back in the day when we called ourselves Movies We Like.
It took us a while to settle into the show's format, so you'll notice some differences as you listen to these episodes. For instance, it takes us a bit of time to actually get into the conversation about the movie. Things like that.
But we're still proud of the conversations about the movies themselves, and we think they're worth keeping in the library.
So enjoy these episodes from our back catalog. And you can become part of our Discord community, learn more about the show, and find out how you can become a supporting member at thenextreel.com.
So thank you, everybody, for downloading and listening to The Next Reel. We appreciate your time and attention, and we hope you enjoy the show. Bounce, bounce, bounce. Good evening, my friend. Good evening.
Howdy.
This was a hard week for this movie. I had to work for it.
Our 2 weeks.
Oh,
the 2 weeks.
Welcome to the show, everybody. Thank you for downloading, listening to movies we like generally. The show is about movies we like in general.
Are you putting a tag on the end of our show title?
This week, the show gets an asterisk.
Like 61?
Yeah.
Oh, man.
You can find the show at rashpixel.tv /MWL, or just rashpixel.tv is fine. And there you can subscribe to the show in iTunes, where you can, you could do something kind, like visit iTunes and actually, leave us a comment and let us know what you think. In particular, really, we care what you think. We do. We care more about the star rating. If you have nothing nice to say, don't say anything at all. But if you have something nice to say, please say it and give us some good stars, because that helps get the show into more people's suggested listen feed. And we want to introduce the show to more people, and we hope that you would help us do that.
Hear, hear.
And Stitcher Smart Radio, it's a smarter way to do internet radio. So if you are a Stitcher user, you can go to if you're not a Stitcher user, go to the website or your app store of choice. You can download it and that, as they say, is that. And I am Pete Wright, at Pete Wright on the Twitter, and all the other places. It's mostly just Pete Wright. And this other gentleman is Andy Nelson. Andy, where are you?
I'm at the Movie Monkey on the Twitter, and that's. Otherwise, just go to Rash Pixel and you can figure out places to find me from there.
So you still haven't figured out your new brand yet?
I haven't figured out my new brand. I'm having a brand crisis.
It's quite a soap opera this has become.
It's a soap opera, which we don't need to go into, but yes, I'm struggling trying to find a new brand that's not the Movie Monkey. So,
well, I look forward to that.
Suggestions, anyone?
I for two really look forward to that.
I'm glad.
So you wanted to talk about, we had some hot trailers this week. One of the three of them I really want to talk about. The other two I'm curious your take on. The International Prometheus trailer, we got to start with that.
This was the first one that really had a lot more just kind of story in it.
Yeah.
And it kind of, I got all goose pimply.
Totally true.
Yeah, that's an awful way to describe it. But yes, no, it's very exciting.
It was a goose pimply kind of experience. It feels so. I think this is one of those movies that I'm feeling really nostalgic for. The story. I'm just really I didn't know how much I was looking forward to going back into this universe of Alien. And I'm really looking forward to it. And one of the things I really that's so exciting to think about with this movie is, when it seems like when the first Alien, it was very much a horror sci-fi thriller, right?
Right, exactly.
And it feels like and from then it really sort of took on a much more of a sci-fi thriller. A lot of the horror was kind of toned down.
Well, you mean after
Alien?
The first movie. Well, yeah, I think the second one really turned it into a sci-fi action movie.
Yes.
And then the third one and the fourth one kind of went off on their own tangents.
They turned into they turned into very different pieces of art. But this one, it looks like Prometheus is really sort of taking a step back to that. Some of the stuff that snuck into that trailer looked pretty scary. I'm really looking forward to that. More of the horror kind of bent.
I just rewatched Alien, and just looking at the images of that film. As a film, it's just stunning to watch anyway. Mm-hmm. But then pairing that with watching the Prometheus trailer, it's just very exciting. The only thing that I'm not gonna let myself get frustrated about. It's just the nature of the beast when you do a prequel, what is it, like 4 decades later? All of the technology looks so much newer and better before, in the past.
Yes.
Because prequel takes place before Alien. All of the stuff in Prometheus looks so much cooler and fancier than it did in Alien. It's the nature of the beast, but what are you going to do?
I don't know. This was the same thing they sort of had to deal with Star Trek. Mm-hmm. Even more so, I think, because the movies coming out many decades after the original series, and I think they did a pretty good job.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's you're right, it's the nature of the beast, but I think they the nice thing about it is that it's Ridley Scott has a very distinct style, right? The technology that goes into Ridley Scott's films has a distinct kind of style. And so at least it feels like it's in the same family.
Yeah, definitely.
And that is not necessarily the case when you compare, the original Roddenberry Star Trek to J.J. Abrams Star Trek.
Right, right.
They're distant kissing cousins at best.
Yeah, I don't recall a lot of lens flares in Gene Roddenberry's version.
Did you see? Oh my gosh, what was it? The thing with the
it was the Titanic.
The Titanic.
Was it like the three? Not was it Super 3D?
Super 3D. But they did it's a comical kind of a satire little thing. It's a viral hoo-ha, and they talk about how I can't even remember the thing. We will post the link, but it's the back-to-back J.J. Abrams Titanic to the Michael Bay Titanic, where just people are exploding as soon as they hit the water, and I was laughing out loud, like holding my gut, listening or watching that bit. I thought that was really priceless. The rest of it was funny, but that was too much.
Yeah, when the person hits the water. Oh, that was classic.
Fantastic. So these other trailers you put down that you wanted to talk about, Twixt and The Road.
Yeah, have you seen the trailers for those yet?
I as soon as you sent them to me, I watched both of the trailers.
Yeah.
I have already forgotten Twixt.
Well, I wanted to talk about Twixt because it excites me a little bit because it's a Francis Ford Coppola.
Oh, that's right.
Francis Ford Coppola film.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, they've been few and far between. And, ever since he kind of got a little tired of the film business or the film business got tired of him, I'm not quite sure. I think, he's always had kind of a very outsider personality and the way that he looks at things with his Zoetrope Studios and everything. And, aside from the big ones, he's always kind of tried balancing the big Hollywood films with the little personal films. And I think he's, as of late, it seems like he's wanted to do more of the little personal films, and they maybe just aren't letting him anymore.
Well, so this movie is the tale of Fat Val Kilmer, who's a horror writer.
Jeez. Yes.
Creepy Elle Fanning.
and old Bruce Dern.
And old Bruce Dern. Old man Bruce. So Fat Val.
It's exciting. It's a new Francis Ford Coppola. Yeah, Fat Val is he's a writer of kind of, his career's kind of in a slump, and he's doing these book tours just to make a penny. And he's in this little town, kind of in the middle of nowhere, and gets caught up in this murder mystery that the not blind sheriff gets him involved in, and that's Bruce Dern, and it involves his dreams and all sorts of stuff. And then oddly, one of the characters is Edgar Allan Poe, played by Ben Chaplin. So I'm really curious to see how this film turns out.
It does. It looks suitably weird, creepy. It was, let's see, what there was some sort of news about 3D that it was shot in 3D, but not all of it. Like he couldn't commit.
Oh, it was like the dream scenes. I think it was when he went into his dreams, and that's where he was seeing the creepy Elle Fanning character.
Yeah, that's right.
I think that's when the 3D is kicking in. So,
well, it's good to see. It's good to see Coppola doing something else, and creepy Elle Fanning is totally creepy. She, true enough, is creepy.
She is.
So this other one was The Road. You want to talk about The Road?
It's a creepy looking film, and it's nice seeing an interesting looking horror film. I have no idea if it's going to be good or not, but the trailer got me kind of excited.
Why did the trailer get you excited?
I don't know.
This is not the Cormac McCarthy road. That the ship has sailed on. This is a new one. This is totally.
Yeah, this is
the road you never want to drive on ever.
Here's the brief synopsis. A 12-year-old cold case is reopened when 3 teens are missing in an old abandoned road where a gruesome murder is left undiscovered for 3 decades. Not a very well written little thing here. But
it's a foreign film.
It's
right? It's like from
foreign. Well, they made it in the Philippines. Where did they make this? I don't know where they made it. The trailer just looks creepy. Like there's that shot in the trailer where that like there's somebody coming up behind him, and they look back, and it's like this freaky looking old man like charging at him, and that just. I don't know. It's just one of those images that kind of was like, yeah, that's pretty creepy. So
it's one of those movies that I find it amusing because they say over and over again that this is a movie this is a really scary movie. Mm-hmm. We're gonna tell you just how scary this movie is. Are you ready? You're gonna crap your pants now, and scary movie again.
That's exactly right.
And, I'm not sure because, it was very similar to the kind of build up to the Blair Witch Project, which ended up being, as it turns out, not the scariest movie ever.
No, but it was unique in its scariness. And I think that's why it worked.
There was a lot of, snot. The scariest parts were marked by runny noses. All right. No, I look forward to this. Sometimes it's and I know you tend to be more in the camp of the Saw fan than I am.
Yeah, I love watching these creepy movies. So yeah, and even the bad ones, I'll end up watching just because they're fun.
Yeah. I want to talk to you about this Hobbit controversy. Can we talk about this? Have you up on this?
Are you talking about the as far as the frame rate?
That's right. This is the big cinema controversy of 2012. As it turns out, The Hobbit, Peter Jackson is shooting The Hobbit at 48 frames per second, and released it. I think 10 or 12 minutes at Comic-Con. I want to say is that where it first came out, and the press reviews came out saying it's really not good. Not good. It looks like television. That there is a look of cinema you expect a movie to look like a movie when you go see it, and this 48 frames per second looks like it's on a big HD TV, and we don't like it, and it's too crisp, and it makes it look kind of jarring and too real, and so on and so on and so on. What is the story behind the 24 frames per second versus 48 frames per second versus I don't know. I mean, do we 60 frames per second, and what do people come to expect when you're shooting a film?
Well, I mean, I don't know if I could go into much as far as like the technicalities behind all of it, but the 24 frames per second is just, since, once they managed to get cameras motorized and, they would shoot 24 frames per second, they would project 24 frames per second. It looks natural. What's happening is if you look at a strip of film, you count 24 frames. That's how many frames go through that projector in 1 second. And I know we've talked about this before as far as like, over cranking or under cranking to create slow-mo or to speed up action. But the idea with the Hobbit now is they're shooting it at a higher frame rate. So instead of 24 frames per second, they're shooting 48 frames per second. So they're doubling it. And then they're projecting it back at the exact same rate. And what it's doing is it's I guess to get briefly technical in a way that hopefully won't get too convoluted. The way that a film plays, obviously it's not a linear strip of just image. What happens is the projector flashes its light. Well, I shouldn't say flashes its light. There's a little thing opens up, lets the light shine through the film, projects onto the screen. This thing, it spins around. It's the gate. It kind of closes the film moves, it stops, the the gate opens up, the projector shines its light through. So 24 times in 1 second, we're actually seeing flashes of an image that are very quick. I mean, 24 times. But between that, there's also a gap of black that we're looking at. So in 1 second, each frame is essentially almost like, 1/48th of a second, and the other 48th of a second is black. So it goes a frame of film for a 48th of a second, a frame of black for a 48th of a second. And that's how the entire second is made up. What's happening now is we're essentially doubling that. We're cutting the amount of black. We're, I don't know. I guess the idea is that it's allowing for more detail to be captured, more detail to be projected. And it's supposed to really immerse you in the world. And I've heard that in 3D, it does feel that way. But at the same time, I'm also hearing now that it's just too much. So I don't know. I'm curious.
Well, I think you just hit it. I mean, everything that I've heard is exactly that Jackson is saying. Jackson's take on it in the response was that, we're 24 frames is what we are used to, and that's why it seems normal. And so you'll have to just adjust to this. But it's also because we can capture more detail, particularly in quick movements of the camera.
Yeah.
You don't lose as much, or you don't introduce as much blur in quick movements of the camera. But this is the part I don't understand about the transition to 3D, because James Cameron is talking about the same thing, about increasing frame rates, because you lose so much detail when you are essentially splitting the frame to do 3D. And I don't know enough about the specific technologies behind 3D, the 3D implementations for cinema but from what it sounds like is the reason they're calling for higher frame rates is because they're essentially trying to bring back lost detail.
Well, and I'm not going to be able to give the most technical explanation, and I don't fully understand it myself, but my understanding with 3D is that because you are essentially having to double up the image in order to create the two versions of the image so that you can, with each eye, create that three-dimensional image, it's layering them in a way that actually is forcing them to play across each other, and it actually is darkening the image. So you're losing light. And I've noticed this in some conversions, particularly animated conversions like The Lion King. The image just looked so much darker than it did when in the original image.
I totally get that, particularly in conversions, but I don't feel like I noticed that in movies that were shot in 3D. Am I crazy?
I think what's happening though is they're shooting it in 3D and they're adapting, knowing that that's going to happen. And so by default, they're changing the way that they would normally shoot it. Now, I'm guessing that maybe what Peter Jackson and James Cameron are saying is that we don't want to have to change the way we shoot our film to adapt to 3D. We want to create this new system that is going to allow us to shoot the way that we want to shoot it while still allowing the 3D to look good.
Yeah.
I mean, that's my best guess.
That's brilliant, man.
It sounded good, right?
No, that's really, I'm moved. It's going to be interesting to see. I wish we could have seen we could actually see some more clips. I'll tell you, it's fascinating. I am totally addicted to the Hobbit YouTube channel just to see, the trip into this universe. They're apparently, the latest on set video that they released, they're fully into shooting the second half of The Hobbit.
Mm-hmm.
And it's taking a lot longer to shoot these two movies together than it took to shoot all three of The Lord of the Rings. So I don't know if that means that their project management has gone to hell in a handbasket, or if it's just going to be that much more of a magnificent movie.
Or if it's just Peter Jackson's ego getting bloated.
Yeah.
Because it's not that long of a book.
Yeah, it's not that long. It was like, it's like an 80-page, it's practically a brief. It's an 80-page book.
Yeah.
I'm making that up, but it is a fantastic experience. I'm really looking forward to it. So,
do they have the new reality series that take place in the Shire on that Hobbit YouTube channel?
I have no idea, but you've just really made me excited. What is this?
I'm just being silly.
Oh,
having their own YouTube channel. I'm like, what are they going to have?
Why would you do that to
me? The beaches of the Shire, as you see all the little hot totally Shirelings running around on the sands. You know?
Totally. All right.
All those little Hobbit lasses.
They're so catty.
Oh my! Wow. So.
Let's see.
Yeah.
So yeah, let's. Should
we talk baseball?
Let's talk baseball. I believe in the Church of Baseball.
Yeah, we're going to open with that because I think that's just the best open. It's so great.
All right. Let's do it.
All right. Do you want me to read it?
Are you going to do it in her voice?
No.
Are you going to do the whole thing? I mean, are you going to go through the whole thing? You're going to do it.
Yeah.
You're going to deliver.
I'm not going to.
Ladies and gentlemen,
I would like to.
I give you this evening playing the part of Annie Savoy, Andy Nelson, in Bull Durham.
I believe in the Church of Baseball. There, that's my Annie Savoy. Then I'll just read the rest. I've tried all the major religions and most of the minor ones. I've worshipped Buddha, Allah, Brahma, Vishnu, Siva, trees, mushrooms, and Isadora Duncan. I know things. For instance, there are 108 beads in a Catholic rosary, and there are 108 stitches in a baseball. When I learned that, I gave Jesus a chance. But it just didn't work out between us. The Lord laid too much guilt on me. I prefer metaphysics to theology. You see, there's no guilt in baseball, and it's never boring, which makes it like sex. So I'll just stop there, because I think in a very large sense, that speech, the beginning of this speech that she has here of the film, so well defines the nature of the film.
Truly, I give you that.
Well, thank you. It's a smartly written bit about baseball, and I think it's I think a fantastic film. I'm getting the sense that you don't necessarily think that.
No, it's not that. All right. I think Ron Shelton did a fantastic job with the script.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't play, baseball, but I am a big fan of baseball movies. And mm-hmm. I think of all the baseball, particularly all the baseball movies we're talking about, but of just generally baseball movies, the sort of whole kind of category of baseball movies, I think this one makes me feel like I am on the field more than any other.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Like the inner monologue that each of these players kind of carries around as they're playing. When we're in Tim Robbins' head, and when we're in Kevin Costner's head when they're actually playing ball, I feel like that is as close to what must be experienced by these pro ball players as there is. I really had a hard time with the major performances in this movie.
Yeah.
I really like this movie. I mean, I do. I like this movie. It is so hard for me to get past Kevin Costner. I feel like he's just the dude that my mom has a crush on. And Susan Sarandon is the chick that my dad has a crush on. And I just can't get past that.
Oh, my goodness.
They're just not, this is not their best work. And I find myself, this is me. This is what I do. When I find that there is a whole sort of path or a whole sort of category of people who think this movie is the best at something, I tend to go a little bit further in my emotional response. But I find it fascinating that these absolutely flat performances, particularly from Kevin Costner, is sort of leading the charge for this being on any 100 list of funniest movies. The AFI's 100 Years, 100 Laughs movie, it actually ranked on that list. Sure, it's 97, but I'm sure I could come up with 3 movies that would beat this. I'm sure of it.
Oh my goodness.
That Sports Illustrated, right? This is the #1 greatest sports movie of all time, is stunning to me. This is not that movie. This is it's a rom-com for, middle-aged middle-aged people.
Man.
And I'm saying that knowing that the movie came out in 1988, and then, middle age was my kind of, my parents were entering middle age at that point.
You know how old they are when they're making this?
How old were they when they were making this? My parents' age, I think.
I don't know how old your parents were in 1988.
How old
Kevin Costner was 33.
Okay.
Tim Robbins was 30. And Susan Sarandon was 42.
Yeah. Well, that's why my dad had a crush on her.
Mm.
You know what I'm saying? Kevin Costner is just...
Okay. You know what? Here's the thing about Kevin Costner.
You know what? Okay, I'm just going to do it. I'm going to do it. Are you ready?
I don't know.
Are you ready?
I'm not sure what I'm ready for.
I'm the player to be named later. That was it. That was Crash Davis.
Man.
Okay, Ron Shelton. That was a dumb line. I don't get it. I don't get that line. I'm not a baseball guy. Maybe that's an inside baseball joke. But that was how we were introduced to this seasoned grizzly. I'm gonna be the catcher to save this hot, pitcher. So I can't. I mean, he really destroys what otherwise I think is a great is a film with great patter. I think honestly, and I don't know that we've ever really. We may want to prepare a Robert Wuhl series. We could do this and Batman and
or a Trey Wilson series.
Exactly.
We could do Raising Arizona,
which was, I would love to do that movie. I have opinions about that movie too. So I feel like I've ranted enough. There, you go. Your turn. I think you're mad at me now. I feel like I've made you mad.
I'm not mad at you. Here's the thing. Kevin Costner is one of those actors. He's in the Keanu Reeves camp that people either have no problem with him or think that he's just like the flattest, most appalling actor out there. And I know there are a lot of people who feel that way about Kevin Costner. I've never felt that way about Kevin Costner. In fact, I've always enjoyed his movies. I can see where people are getting that, and I don't know if it's the tone of his voice. I don't know what it is, but I've never had that problem with him. But I acknowledge that a lot of people do. It is what it is. I know that half of our 80s baseball series is Kevin Costner movies, which I know you weren't excited about.
I honestly, I was really excited to give him a chance because I hadn't seen this movie in a long time, and maybe I'm bitter because I had to work so hard to get it into my home.
I think that's adding a little bit to your bitterness, and also I think that you're just looking at it. You're so focused on Kevin Costner.
I am. I can't.
You're
not
be allowing yourself to see the movie.
No. Okay. No. The highlights of the movie. For me, the real highlights of the movie are on the field. The comedy in the movie is on the field. Because I feel like Susan Sarandon and Kevin Costner, I don't feel anything for their relationship. I'm not inspired by that. I'm not sort of moved by their relationship. I felt like Tim Robbins was freaking great. I like Tim Robbins in this movie a lot. And I feel like he has had some real ups and downs. And this movie is one that really stands out for me as a terrific performance. And I think he delivers as the comic foil. In just it's really pitch perfect. Like, he's dumb, and I think for actors to play dumb as well as he does really highlights just how terrific and smart of a guy he is.
But he's not just dumb;
he's willfully.
Don't just say he's dumb. He's innocently dumb. I think he's he's very innocent in his approach to things. He's not just a thug. He's not just a dumb jock or anything. He really plays it in kind of a naive way, and which is a great when you get to see Crash kind of coaching him on, give some of the wisdom that he's picked up over time.
Yeah. All right. I mean, I certainly I agree with that.
Yeah.
And I think the way he plays that evolution from the point where, and you even see it in his haircuts. I mean, the way they style the character, over the course of the 108 minutes, you really see that evolution sort of driven, at a very character level, and I think he plays that really well. He plays being molded by Crash really well.
Yeah, he does. He started as an uncredited slave in Buck Rogers in the 25th century.
That's fantastic.
In an episode called Planet of the Slave Girls.
Man, if I had a dime.
Yes,
that's
indeed.
Fantastic.
So anyway, so he is great. I mean, Tim Robbins, I think, is just fantastic in this film. So much better than when he was in Howard the Duck a few years before. So it's great to see him playing Nuke, and just really this character who needs molding, and ends up willingly letting himself get molded so that he can become a great player, and a player who is able to get out of the minors and make it, get up into the show, which in the majors. Yeah, and there's this moment where we see them on the bus, and he's taking notes, writing down all the cliches that Crash is showing him, and you can see, at this point he's fully sort of invested in the fact that he is not going to be able to do this by himself, and that is a very real sort of transformation that you see. It's handing over of that innocence to the hands of this other seasoned grizzly guy, and then to close it with him being interviewed by Rayanne, talking about them as that Motley Crue song, but spouting off all those great cliches that we'd just seen him taking notes of on 30 minutes prior. I think it's a really great sort of arc that this character is sort of takes. Yeah. So I think he actually, I was going back to what I really like about the movie, and I think he actually drives a lot of the comedy on the field, and there are several montages in this movie, and I think the patter that they have actually on the plate is some of the stuff that's just priceless. Yeah, especially the scene when everybody starts coming over. When Nuke's dad is in the stands and he's nervous about that, and the Puerto Rican guy's glove has been cursed by his girlfriend, and there's the other players getting married to that girl, and everyone's trying to figure out what to get him for the wedding gift, and that's just such a great scene. I mean, that's just, I think, a classic meeting at the mound scene. But, but so the thing about this movie that. Now I'll just say why I like it.
Do it. I want to hear that. I'm sorry.
I'm about why you don't like it so much, which really revolves around two people.
It does.
This movie is, right off the top, I have no problem with either of these people, and I'm actually kind of surprised that you have a problem with Susan Sarandon at all, because I think this is such a great performance by her and a great role for her, and just in sports movies, it's a great role for a woman. To have a character like this that's such a rich character and is so unique, and the way, like that opening monologue that I read when we started, just talking about that and how the nature of this mythic game baseball, and how infused it is in American culture, and it is almost a religion to people, and it's in people in some way do end up equating it to sex, like great baseball, great sex, and it's a really interesting comparison that she gets to have, and how she runs with that through the course of the film. But the film itself, it takes place in the minor league, which is, first of all, it's a nice change of pace from the other films, which are all most of the baseball films that we see are major league stories, because the nature of film, you want a story that, you want to go big. And so you're going to tell a story in a big environment like the majors. However, this story isn't about really, it's not about the big game at the end. It's not about, will they make it and will they win? It's really just about, we don't even see the beginning of the season. We don't even see the end of the season. It's just like a mid-season movie that takes place. And the story is essentially about these characters and how baseball is such a part of them. And even though Crash is bitter and he's tired of being this player that gets called in to basically babysit and mentor these young players, he can't give it up because it's in him. He has to play. That's the only thing he knows. And on top of that, he's so close to breaking this record, even though nobody knows. But it's not about the fact that people have to know that he's going to break this record. It's that internal challenge that people have with things like just in sports where they want to know that, yes, I was able to break that record. And at the end, when he breaks that record, which is really, I think, the end of his journey over the course of this film, it's this moment. He goes on, he finishes, and that's it for him. And he essentially, is probably going to retire after that. But it's like he said after Nuke finally starts, listening to him and pitching right and everything, and he's actually starts, improving and actually, getting people out and everything. And he comes and sits down and he's gloating. He's having that moment, where he's just, so proud of himself, and Crash is like, it's over. We're already moved on past that. You had your moment. Now get focused again, which was, a great way to say, it's not, those moments are great, but you just got to keep looking at what's going on, what's the bigger picture and the next step. So it's a story about these people just, in love with this game that they're infused with. And, I don't know, I think it's a fantastic story about characters that we don't often get in the world of baseball film.
Well, and I think you hit something really that's really important about why where this movie works, why it works. That there, insofar as this is a movie that is set in and around baseball, it is not in and of itself a baseball movie.
Yeah.
Right. It is a character movie about about all of these characters in a point of major transition. Right. Mm-hmm. One of them is growing up. One of them is growing old. Well, two of them really are growing old, and one of them is growing up and sort of kind of learning how to find his way. And I think that's by focusing on those characters and that triangle and how they work, everything else is sort of is kind of a wonderful ride in orbit of those three characters. And I think that really makes it work, in that context. And I think there were some really smart sort of structural choices that that were made in the script to really kind of elevate it to that level. And I think you hit it by not making this about a big game. Mm-hmm. It changes the dynamic of this film and it allows you to focus on the more human elements.
Well, and the nature of the minor leagues, it's essentially the kind of the testing ground for future major league players. But the vast majority of players who are playing in the minor leagues are never, ever going to get to the majors. So by nature of that, it already has kind of this mix of hope and loss and frustration and excitement because of that, And I think you're seeing those two different people, Nuke and Crash, at two different ends of that spectrum. Crash wants to keep playing because baseball is what his life is about. It's what drives him. Yet he's old enough and wise enough to realize that, he had his, 21 days playing for the show, which was great, but that was it. And now all he can latch onto is just doing whatever he has to keep playing, which is the minors. He's stuck in it.
I think that gets to one of the reasons that the rest of the film, the rest of the sort of supporting characters in the film work so well, because, you get this feeling that as sort of jaded and cynical as, Joe, Reardon, and Larry might be, they're there because, like you said, they love the game, right? They love being a part of the game. And that's the transition that we're witnessing Crash, making as he, in the very first scene where we meet him, where he walks in and then he quits and walks out for 5 seconds and then comes back in. That transition starts there and it ends on the porch at the very end of the movie where he says he's going to stick around as a manager, and he realizes that he has to stay in this game. He has to stay in it, just like Joe and Larry had to make that decision themselves. And all the players that are playing that game, like you say, they're there not because they're all trying to make it to the majors, but because they love it so deeply.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean it's their life. It's what fuels them. So even if it's just, struggling along in the minors, on the road and all the crap that goes along with it, that's what they're going to do. And you can see how they end up getting kind of grumpy and bitter, like when you see the coach, and you see Skip and he's just such a grump. It's it's the nature of it. It's and having to cut people. You got the two great scenes where, the coach is just like, this is one of the hardest jobs, part of the job, and that essentially is like the end for somebody. And it's tough. These are people who, this is what their life's about. So, and the film captures that. It really captures that sadness. And it's interesting because, you brought this up with Major League last week and how it has that comedy, but it also is grounded in reality. And this film, I think, and you were calling it kind of a rom-com, which I think is, completely not right. No offense, but to me, it feels much more dramatic. This is kind of a dramatic baseball story with elements of comedy in it, because it does have some great funny moments. But I think, and you may downgrade the drama only because of the Costner Sarandon part of the story, but I think that it's a very solid story. And you've got like the ending when that, after Nuke goes off to play for the show, that's when the real kind of sadness and the frustration and the struggle kicks in. When Crash is let go, he goes to play for this other team. He breaks this record that nobody but him and Annie know about. And then he kind of retires from playing, and he just wants to sit there on the porch with her, listen to her. Not listen. He wants to hear all of her philosophies, but not right now. And he just wants to be. And yes, he'll probably go off and coach and everything, but it's kind of this dramatic, mellow ending.
Yeah, in that respect, it's sort of two. It's two films, and I think it's not two films. It is a well architected story that allows us to earn. It allows us to earn this time to quit with Crash. You know what I mean? Like we feel like we've been on this ride long enough with him that we all want to sit on the porch and listen. But I'm going to stand by my rom-com, and it's even supported by Wikipedia, which actually calls it a romcomspofi, a romantic comedy sports film. So, do with that what you will.
Well, yeah. They also called Major League. They called Major League a satire, which This is Wikipedia we're talking about. It's a free encyclopedia, and it's great.
As far as you know, I just edited it so that it would be a rom-com-spoofy.
That's right. I'm going to look and see who was credited for making these changes.
So what? Now we need to talk about. I mean, this movie. Nobody thought this movie was going to be made. In fact, the only studio that even wanted to look at it was Orion Pictures.
Which, every studio passed, and this was after. A few years after The Natural came out, so baseball movies still hadn't quite picked up, although at least they were kind of, people were talking about him and stuff. And then, yeah, Ron Shelton is a guy who grew up playing for the minors, which I think is, he was able to pull a lot of those details from his history and bring that in, which is another reason I think people love it, because all of those details feel so real. So he, is a person who had managed to sell a few scripts early on. He kind of worked his way up as a reader, and finally got to work on a couple films that he had written, and he got to direct second unit. And through that, he learned how to direct. And then this was his first film that he was going to direct himself. He wrote it. It was the first draft. He didn't change it at all. Everybody just loved it, and they moved forward. And once Orion finally gave them some money, they were able to move forward and get it made. It took a while to get it to happen, but it did, and it happened the way he wanted it to happen. And Ron Shelton is a guy who works in Hollywood, very much kind of has an independent mindset, yet is always making stuff in Hollywood and struggling to make things the way he wants, because he does have that independent mindset, much like our the man we talked about earlier, Francis Ford Coppola.
Right.
So,
other films that Ron Shelton has done. He's been around a long time, and he did, one of my very all-time favorites, Bad Boys 2.
Yes, that's one that he wrote acknowledging, there are films out there that are essentially, you have to write it knowing that you're making it for what did he say? It's like the international common denominator. Like you have to just, that's what it is. So,
yeah. Well, he did, I should say though, so after Bull Durham, he did Blaze, but then in 1992 came out with White Men Can't Jump, which he also directed, which is absolutely on my list of movies I love.
Yeah,
I love that movie. It was terrific, and I think we should talk about. We should do We got to do basketball movies at some point.
Yeah,
but then he goes back to Costner with Tin Cup. Ugh. But he's done a lot of really generally top-notch sports films.
I think we're going to do a Kevin Costner series. We'll do Fandango, American Flyers, The Bodyguard. What do you think?
I'm going to do a new show called Andes We Hate. It's just all about all the Andes that do things to hurt me.
Oh man,
you could be on the show. You could be on it.
Thanks.
It'll be a very special episode.
Oh, that's awesome.
So anyway, Ron Shelton is, he's one of those, and he hasn't, he hasn't done much. Do you know where he is? Like where he's been since 2003? He's got something called Hound Dogs from 2011, which means nothing to me. But I've seen nothing since Bad Boys 2, and maybe that was a problem for him.
I think that he's just, he's an older guy, and I think that he's kind of at a point where he's not really clicking with modern Hollywood, and I think Ron is trying to get some of his own independent stuff made still. I heard that he is working on a golf film that he's trying to get off the ground, a golf story. I can't remember what it's called, but it's like Q School or something like that. So it's another sports movie, but he's always just at this struggle where he's trying to battle the people. It's Q School, golf comedy called Q School. He's got that independent mindset. It's very hard getting money to make movies right now, especially, and I know he's got a lot of stuff under his belt, but unfortunately, I think the nature of the business sometimes is also it's a young person's business, and that makes it harder for for older people to get stuff made. Not to say he can't, not to say he shouldn't. I think that he definitely should be able to get stuff made still. I mean, he's proven himself with a lot of the films that he's written and directed. So I hope he's able to keep going.
He's married to Lolita Davidovich.
Who is in Blaze.
She's very beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
She's been in a ton of stuff. She's been around for a long time.
Yes.
And is still terrific. She does a lot of TV stuff, a lot of TV work.
Yeah.
So anyhow, good movie. So this movie, anyway, it was Orion Pictures gave him less than $10 million to make this movie.
Yeah, not a lot of money to make this movie. Although in the box office, it came out summer of 1988, and it made almost $51 million domestically. So it did really good for itself. He made quite a bit of money back. So I think that is another little feather in Ron Shelton's cap that he did well. And it got a lot of recognition for the script. I believe he won the Writers Guild of America Best Original Screenplay Award, nominated for an Oscar, a number of others that he got. So it's good for him. He really managed to write an honest script in a very unique world that really brought us all into it. And I thought he did a fantastic job. I loved it.
And then Richard Corliss, in his Time review, writes this tripe: Costner's surly sexiness finally pays off here, abrading against Sarandon's Earth Mama geniality and Robin's rube egocentricity. Costner strikes sparks. It's like he didn't even see the same movie. I saw this movie. They should remake it with everything exactly the same, except for the part of Kevin Costner is played by a 2x4, and it would be a better film.
Oh my goodness! Play nice. You're so mean. This is the last line by Hal Hinson in his Washington Post review when the movie came out. The last paragraph, which I think is pretty smart. It sums up the movie nicely. But as smart as Bull Durham is about baseball, it's even smarter about people. And when we watch Crash effortlessly unsnap the catch in Annie's garter, the catch that Nuke fumbled over earlier, we see that in a sense, the movie is a celebration of experience over raw youth. What it tells us is that though youth and talent are valued, there are greater glories in age.
Yeah, that's pretty nice.
Yeah, I thought
some days you win, some days you lose, some days it rains. Think about that for a while.
Oh, that's great.
Ebert, the great Ebert, the great wise and mighty Ebert says it's a treasure of a movie because it knows so much about baseball and so little about love. The movie is completely unrealistic romantic fantasy, and in the real world, the delicate little balancing act of these three people would crash into pieces. But this is a movie, and so we want to believe in love, and we want to believe that once in a while, lovers can get a break from fate. That's why the movie's ending is so perfect. Not because it seems just right, but because it seems wildly impossible, and we want to believe it anyway. I should say, I deeply love the end of the movie, even though I deeply don't love. I don't like the characters. I love.
No. You don't like the actors.
I don't like the. You're right. You're absolutely right. I don't like the actors. I love that it ends with dancing.
Mm-hmm.
It is perfect. It is perfect.
Yeah.
Perfect.
It's good stuff.
It's
good stuff.
Oh man, this was exhausting. You took it out of me on this one. You really did. Next week
you took it out of yourself on this.
No, this one's on you. I'm totally saddling you with this one. Next week we're gonna follow it up with another of the hit Kevin Costner Spofies, Full Metal Jacket. No, what?
Although it's not a rom-com spofi. Oh my! Hey, we should briefly mention our buddy Sarmento sent us a lovely little list, the 15 best baseball movies.
He did. I actually included in the notes last week. I shouldn't.
Oh,
have
you
done
did.
That was when he interrupted us last week while we were. He pinged us while we were recording.
Yes, that's right. That while we were talking about him.
While we were talking about him,
it was a little creepy.
It was very creepy. And so he sent us that I included in the notes for last. I'll include it again this week.
Well, and there's also that other best baseball movies list on baseballmovie.com that has another nice little list of the best 25 baseball movies. Although he does put The Fan as number 25, and I have a feeling there's something better than The Fan that should be on that list.
I'll bet one of them is one of the 3 best movies that should have been on AFI's list.
I bet you're right.
Stupid
man.
Lists. God.
You gotta love them.
We gotta start a list. What are we gonna start a list? It'll be the movies we like top something list. Top what? It can't be, the movies we like top movies we like. That's just dumb. It's gotta be the best.
The best
something.
I don't know.
All right. Well, that's your assignment.
It's late. You stumped me.
That's your assignment for next week. We need a list. We need a list for the website. We need a list that other people doing other shows will be able to say, you should check out the movies we like top list of movies that have plumbers in them. Something like that. That's what we need. I'm
going to challenge you to put that list together.
I don't think we've done any movies that actually have a plumber in them.
I don't think so. We've done movies with bad plumbing, but I don't think that counts.
No, we're gonna need to start that list. It may take a while to get more than one of those movies on it. It'll build a slow burn.
Yes. So next week we're finishing up our 80s baseball.
Yeah.
Even though I feel like we're maybe one great 80s baseball movie short, but that's okay. We're next week we're going to do Field of Dreams. We'll have to save 8 Men Out for another a baseball series down the road.
Okay.
But yeah, Field of Dreams, continuing our Kevin Costner fest.
God. In this film, Kevin Costner goes nuts and plays with ghosts.
We're going to follow it up with Waterworld and The Postman.
Please. Oh, that makes me happy.
Yeah, I know.
Okay. But the reason we're doing these baseball movies, because it's baseball season, and I have yet to watch any games. I said I was going to this year, but I haven't. The whole reason we're doing this was really so that because we needed to calm ourselves before we begin the Alien saga. So that's coming in 2 weeks. That's starting in 2 weeks. We're going to start talking about Alien. I hope that we're equipped by then to actually talk about Alien.
I hope so.
I'm going to need to watch that movie several times. I feel like that's a movie that has been dissected. We're going to have to bring the smart.
It's a great movie. I know we will have to bring the smart.
Such a great movie. All right. I got nothing else. As always,
that's it.
You are a scholar and a gentleman.
Yeah, and you are a gentleman and a scholar.
Well said.
Indeed.
Good night, Andrew.
Have a good night.
Here at The Next Reel, we've been passionately discussing movies week after week since 2011. That's a lot of movies and a lot of conversation.
Sure is, Pete. And to be honest, it's a lot of work too. But it's work that we love. If you have been enjoying our show, we'd like to remind you that there are ways to support us, even if you're not able to become a member just yet. You might have heard us talk about our new watch page, where we've listed every movie that we've talked about paired with Amazon or Apple links to rent or buy the movie.
Now we'd like to introduce you to our originals page. Let's take a trip down memory lane, Andy. Do you remember what the first film we discussed on The Next Reel was that was an adaptation?
Well, let's see. It wasn't obviously our Indiana Jones series, because those were all original. Then we did Charlie Kaufman. Oh, of course. It was adaptation from Susan Orlean's Orchid Thief.
Exactly. We have covered quite a few adaptations over the years, and now we're providing a way for our listeners to delve into the original source material.
That's right. Just head over to thenextreel.com/originals, and you can see the list of all the adaptations that we have discussed.
From our David Fincher series, featuring The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo, The Social Network, Zodiac, Benjamin Button, and Fight Club.
To our Paranoia trilogy with The Parallax View and All the President's Men, we have covered a variety of adaptations.
Those were some great discussions, especially Fight Club. And let's not forget our baseball series with The Natural and Field of Dreams, adapted from Shoeless Joe.
And Up in the Air and Thank You for Smoking. So many memorable conversations.
Absolutely. And you know what's exciting? Each purchase you make through our links doesn't cost you any extra, but a percentage goes to support The Next Reel and our family of shows.
You can support us while diving deeper into these fantastic stories, whether it's the paper, audiobook, or Kindle version.
We've also included plays and movies. If they were the source, we've put it on there.
So what are you waiting for? Head to thenextreel.com/originals, support The Next Reel, and get your next great read today.
I'm off to reread Fight Club. Now, where did I put my Kindle?